Hey guys, welcome to the Last Set podcast. Wow, UFC 264, full of different surprises. So let's start off. Conor McGregor.
That was
It was very, very weird to see with a very, very freak kind of. It looked a little bit lower down on it. So sometimes when thinking back to Anderson Silva and Chris Weidman, it's typically when they've had those leg breaks, it's following a kick. Whereas with McGregor, it originally looked like it was some form of drop foot that could have been caused by a kick, but he stepped on it and it twisted, and then it looked like either his tibia or fibula, which are the two bones in your lower limb, must have broke. And he just dropped back and basically was just trying his best just to cover up and things like that. And just with like the last 5 seconds left, Dustin walked off, and Conor, he had the little floppy ankle. There was no way that he wouldn't even stand up. He had to be taken on a stretcher, which is
funny how you mentioned that because he actually
ironic.
said to Dustin, "You're going to be taken off on the stretcher. You're going to be taken out on the stretcher." It was actually Conor that took him out on the stretcher. Well, there's a lot. Well, there's a lot of argument about the initial fracture must have occurred when he checked a calf kick within the first 10 seconds of the fight. And then apparently Dustin pointed at him, and that's when he believed that he felt it was some kind of fracture. And after looking a little further into it and getting a doctor's opinion, they said that there must have been an initial fracture somewhere in the fight because the way that he rolled, it felt like it looked like it gave in very, very easily.
I think the actual initial fracture was before the fight.
Yeah.
I think that it probably happened in training.
Do you reckon?
That's why a lot of the time happens with talk about Chris Weidman. He broke his leg like that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there is impact, but it's not common in the UFC, and people are smacking shin on shin all day.
Mm-hmm.
And these fighters don't have untrained, unconditioned shins. They do condition their shins an incredible amount. It's most likely the amount of sparring and training and kicking that they're doing. Look, there's just limits of the human body sometimes, and when you have too high kind of the volume of amount of strikes that you're doing in training camp and things like that, look, it's just going to happen. So I think the initial fracture was probably even beforehand, because there wasn't a whole lot of kicking going on. There was a little bit of lower leg kicks from Conor, and he was putting a lot behind it. But I don't think that's what happened. I think it was just an accumulation of damage after the training camp, and then it's let go. And to be honest, it'll also be due to how well Dustin was conditioned himself. So, no, I think it's one of those freak ones. It was interesting to see that Conor dived for the guillotine.
Oh yeah, that's because that was definitely a big surprise because that's usually what Dustin does. Whenever someone tries to take down Dustin, he usually puts him in a tight guillotine. And I was kind of impressed because I wanted Conor to use his grappling. We talk about all the time about how underrated his grappling is. And then it was a little bit more on display there, and he seemed to be very comfortable. However, when Dustin did have the top position, he was raining down. And he did manage to get a few strikes in. But at the same time, Conor seemed very comfortable on his back with the up kicks. And he did deliver some big elbows. There was one point when Dustin was talking to Joe Rogan after the fight about apparently Conor was holding onto his gloves or hooking on his gloves.
Yeah, about 3 fingers underneath the cuff of his gloves and pulling him down into up kicks.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's not like Conor hasn't done that before. He did that all the time in the Khabib fight. He literally kneed a down opponent when Khabib was in, I think, side control or something like that. And Conor would just whack him with his knee over and over. Conor often does that kind of thing later on in his career. It's a funny kind of situation because Conor had his best work at featherweight. There's no denying that. Featherweight Conor was, and lightweight Conor, very, very slick. Welterweight, not his division. Lightweight is a reasonable division for Conor, but I think the amount of output he can produce at lightweight is a lot less than what he could produce at featherweight. Because he would often say at featherweight, I can go all day. I can go all day. His movement in and out. And he had a big size advantage at featherweight as well. Lightweight, he's more of just a regular bloke at lightweight. He's just he's a little bit more muscular in his frame and things like that. And I think Dustin just, lightweight is just, he's fucking really good at lightweight. He's really made lightweight his home. And you can't, I thought it was interesting that Conor was the underdog, but it was warranted since Dustin had been so much more active than Conor in and out of like the UFC as well, since, you know, Conor would have long stints in between fights in many different weight classes, whereas Dustin consistently went at featherweight, then moved up to lightweight, and that was his home. He didn't do any dropping up and down. That's where he made his home. He fought the Eddie Alvarez twice. Justin Gaethje, Habib Nurmagomedov. He's now fought Conor 3 times. He's fought Max Holloway
twice
as well. Like, the people he scraps with, and like even like Dan Hooker and things like that. Look, everybody he's fought has been the cream of the crop, the best ever, and he's never stopped.
He's just a whole lot more seasoned. Yeah,
he is, and he's so much more durable. There was a shot in that fight where, similar to the second fight, Conor had he'd sparked Poirier, and he obviously felt it, but his legs were still there, still underneath him. Conor just, he looked better in terms of using his more fluid movement and that.
He seemed a lot more quicker. He seemed a little bit more versatile. He wasn't just using that flat foot boxing that we talked about in the last fight. He used, like, he was going in and out. You know, obviously he was using those leg kicks. It was definitely a little bit more grappling. He definitely had improved himself since the last fight. Which was kind of strange because I kind of felt like there was so much more that we could have seen in this if it went to round 2. I reckon round 2 would have been a much more impressive round if it wasn't for that, just for that leg break. I honestly would have. I'm saying, not to get too far ahead, but we discussed this before the podcast about there probably won't be another fight, but I want there to be another fight. I really, really do, because I felt like there was just something waiting off the back that we just didn't get to see.
Yeah, I think the second round would have been different, mainly just because they're both quite freaky athletes, right? Dustin and Conor in their own rights are freaky athletes. Dustin's kind of cardio and his durability and the way he switches stances, and Conor's just freak power. But to be honest, I felt like Conor's just, because he was really active at featherweight and then moved up to lightweight, his timing was solid because he'd been active. Conor's timing's not the same it was before. There was a lot of strikes that he threw that hit the mark, but the timing wasn't quite right. And I think after those 2 guillotine attempts where he's squeezing as tight as he can, I think his arms were probably spent, honestly. I reckon second round he might have had hope, but if it went any further, I think he accumulates damage from there, which sucks because I know his conditioning looked a lot better in the second and the third fight. I thought his conditioning looked way better. But honestly, I thought his arms would be spent after those 2 guillotine attempts. After the first guillotine didn't work, what he did was he tried to reverse it, or he tried to go, all right, guillotine didn't work, boom, get up, rather than try and just recover until the next round. I'll knock him out then. I wish he disengaged, got back to the feet, and started going again, rather than trying to go for the first guillotine. All right, didn't work. I'll go for the second one. He's already squeezing for the life of him. After the first guillotine broke and his hands broke, he was basically just holding on with the one arm, and it's not going to do anything. No. I wish he just disengaged from there, because he had a little bit of space once it didn't work, and Dustin was trying to pull his head out. He had a little bit of space where he was like, all right, I'm not going to get for this guillotine. Why should I try any harder?
Yeah.
He's created space. I'll disengage.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen.
Also, wish he just stayed on the ground. He didn't have long to go. He only had like 15 seconds left of the round when he got back up.
Yeah.
I reckon he should have just stayed down. He was doing really well. He was holding himself.
Dustin's got power too.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
he just held his own. I mean, and that's good on him. And now, fuck, it's kind of like, I just feel like it's left a bad taste in everyone's mouths. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All those anti-Conor fanboys are just making the most of it, and they're going back on the things that he said. And
I can't wait to see the what is it, the Jake Paul
Jake
brothers.
Paul,
they're already saying like our new offer is $23.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That was that really pissed me off because you
guys are just clout chasers.
Yeah.
You're just clout chasers, and I never like it when all the like a lot of these fighters were. Like I saw like Uriah Hall and all these different fighters come out and be like, even like Bilal Muhammad, they're all taking advantage of Conor's demise.
Yeah.
And I think that it's just like a lot of fighters were just like, you know, there was some good moments for some fighters, like they were like, yeah, that's all good.
Well, one of them I was very impressed with was John Jones.
Yeah.
John Jones was saying, "Rest up, champ. I hope you get better."
Yeah.
I thought that one was very, very fair. Daniel Cormier was making like a slight jab, like he was correcting. Oh, it's funny how this fight game was crazy. It's funny how he said he was going to put him on a stretcher, but Conor comes out on a stretcher. And then non-fighters were just saying, "Oh, that's what you get for making fun of somebody's wife." Look, listen, it's the fight game. People get involved because Conor says those sorts of things, and you know this is the problem when it comes to all these like casual fans, especially like casual celebrity fans as well. People who they don't watch a typical UFC fight, or they just don't watch a fight night. They just watch that 1 or 2 cards a year because he's on it. And then if they feel like they've got to have something to say just because he loses. However, if Conor won that, everyone would probably be like, oh, surprise, surprise, the king's back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon of being like, all right, Conor's done and things like that.
Do you? What's your take?
I don't think he's done, but I think that like he's either broken his tibia or his fibula.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be one of those bones in his lower limb that had to break. There's only 2. So we know from Chris Weidman it would take probably about 6 to 8 weeks just for him to walk on it and be able to walk around.
Mm-hmm.
It would most likely take at least a year to be in a place where you can athletically perform. We're not going to see Conor in 2021 again. We'll see him in 2022. I think that leaves a bad taste in his mouth.
Yeah.
And I think Dustin goes to fight Oliviera.
Yeah, that's definitely going to happen.
It'll most likely happen around maybe November or December. And I really do take Poirier in that fight. I think Oliviera is very good. But I think in the Michael Chandler fight that it showed that I think Conor could beat Oliviera, right? But I think Dustin's even worse matchup than that. I think Dustin's so well rounded. I think Dustin would beat Oliviera as well. So I think Dustin fights Oliviera. Conor takes time off, recovers. I think he needs a step down in competition. I think he needs a Rafael dos Santos.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah,
as he also had a scrimmage with him
because he was also talking. He was talking about him. He was making weight. Yeah, he was making weight. But it was also saying, "Oh, you made fun of me for breaking my leg or something before the fight. Rest up," because that's what happened.
He broke his toe.
Broke his toe and all that. Yeah. So I reckon if Conor were to come back, then I reckon to fight RDA would be a good fight for him because they were supposed to fight in the past at lightweight for the lightweight title, but they never did.
To be fair, Conor broke his toe and fought Khabib.
Yeah. My foot was like a balloon.
Yeah. RDA broke a toe in his foot and he pulled out. Yeah. So you can't really do much on a broken leg. You couldn't stand.
He broke his foot 2 weeks before the fight and still won.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think broken toes are not a huge. I mean, John Jones broke his toe, didn't even notice. He beat he fucking beat Chael Sonnen.
Chael Sonnen, yeah.
Those are minor ones. So that one's not really comparable.
Okay.
But I think Conor needs a step down in competition. If he's to, and I think it's either against an RDA, a Tony, or perhaps a Justin Gaethje.
Well, Justin Gaethje, I reckon the best matchup for him everyone's talking about is him versus Chandler.
That would be the next one.
That's
why I said the RDA one beforehand, yeah.
Here's what I feel like it could still be a possibility. Because Conor is this much of a draw, even though I believe some of his stock has definitely gone down for sure. Because now he's got 6 losses on his career.
22-6.
22-6. I still feel like there's just a little bit of a power that he could have, because if he takes his time off, he recovers, he gets better, it takes the process of over a year. Dustin Poirier could become champion in that time. I reckon he could come back straight away and go for that 4th fight. However, or what I think could happen is he comes back, fights RDA. I can see him winning against RDA, potentially, okay? And then he fights Dustin for the title. And in the 4th, and not even that, but like the 4th ever fight in the UFC, because I don't think we've ever had I don't think 2 fighters have fought each other 4 times before in the UFC.
No.
I don't think it's ever happened.
It's never happened.
It's never happened. There you go. For the 4th time and for the title. That will probably be the best pay-per-view buys of all time. I can see that happening.
Yeah, I can see that being a massive fight. I think Conor needs to win 2 fights before fighting, because he's 1-3 at lightweight.
Yeah.
It's just...
It's not good. It's not a good place.
I mean, to be fair, right, if you want to break down his losses...
Yeah.
He won against Eddie Alvarez.
Yeah.
He lost against Khabib, who's considered the greatest lightweight champion ever. He lost to Dustin Poirier twice, one by doctor stoppage and one by being knocked out.
Yeah, he wanted to make sure it was doctor stoppage as well.
So a lot of people are clowning him now, saying it's 1-1-1 now.
Yeah. Well, do you think? I reckon I kind of agree with that. 1-1-1. You know.
Yeah. But what I'm trying to make out is that yes, he was 1-3, but he's 1-3 against beating Eddie Alvarez, Bellator and UFC lightweight champion, and if he does very well in one championship, he'll be another lightweight champion there. He lost to Khabib Nurmagomedov, one of the greatest lightweight champion, well, if not the greatest lightweight champion ever, and he's lost to Dustin Poirier, who's an ex-interim lightweight champion and has defeated ex-interim champions and UFC champions himself. So he's lost to the very, very best. So I think he just needs to step down in competition, and that's not a bad thing. It's just you've been out of the game. What do you reckon? You know, these guys are going to keep going, and I think Dustin fights Charles Oliviera and Conor fights 2 more fights. One has to be probably outside the top 5, and one has to be inside the top 5.
Yeah,
and a star power takes like care of the rest.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one. Just I'm thinking to myself right now, what if there was an alternate universe where Conor never took the Floyd Mayweather fight? I'm thinking about that's what I'm thinking. Because I feel like that's when, after the Floyd Mayweather, that's when everything was just kind of went downhill.
I think he just fell in love with the hands, took a lot of time out of the game, got a huge payday that like absolutely... It absolutely made the UFC money look like pennies and peanuts. And then he came back for the Khabib fight, and he fought the worst stylistic matchup ever.
Yeah.
And Khabib is the greatest lightweight champion ever. So it definitely just wrecked him from there. It wrecked him from there, and then went to welterweight, which is not in lightweight. So like, look, it's just... He's 2-0 at 2-1 at welterweight. He's 7-0.
Yeah,
7-0 at featherweight, and he's 1-3. So he's just popped all around the place. He just needs to Either stick to lightweight or stick to featherweight. Because I think if he moved to featherweight, he'd butcher all of them.
Yeah.
But then the issue would be maybe like a Zabit Magomed Sharipov. But I think that lightweight, he's got to stick to lightweight, take time off, have a drop down in competition, come back, fight someone out of the top 5, fight someone inside the top 5, while Dustin Poirier beats Charles Oliveira. Either way, Conor will get to fight Dustin again one time, or get the get the belt, dangle it in front of Poirier to defend it, and then he leaves. Yeah. So there's a lot of moving parts, and again, like Dana says, it's a lot about timing rather than just picking fights. Even like, who knows, by that time maybe an Islam Makhachev's out there and he uses that fight to catapult himself even further. But I think Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier 4 could happen. Yeah. I just think it would probably happen in maybe 2 years' time.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. One thing I had to also mention was when Conor came out, he was wearing a mouth guard that looked like with the Brazilian colours on it. And apparently that's people saying that's a nod to Charles Oliveira. And that if Conor would have if he beat Dustin in this one, he would have moved on to fighting Charles Oliveira, which could have been definitely a possibility, but it's not going to happen now anytime soon. It's just, I think, knowing Conor and the person that he is, knowing that the way that he's come from when it comes to injuries, and like he tore his meniscus at one point in UFC. He
blew his ACL.
Yeah, blew his ACL, and a few weeks before the Chad Mendes fight and still fought. It's got me thinking.
Staph before.
Yeah. He's come back from injuries before, and he's come back very strong, so.
I rate the ACL one way more than a leg break.
Yeah.
To be honest, the ACL's fucked.
Yeah.
That's one of the worst injuries for you to have if you're anywhere near your athletic prime, and he managed to pull through and win 2 titles, so.
Yeah. That's what I think. I think maybe it might not be a year. Maybe it might be 6 months.
It's got to be more than a year. I don't think he would get cleared.
Yeah.
I don't think he'd get cleared.
Yeah. I think it could be 6 to 8 months, and then maybe almost a year. But I don't know. Just the way that he's come when it comes to him and injuries and the influence that he has. I don't know. I feel like a year might be too long. Maybe I don't know.
I think it would be too soon since he already had a fight 6 months ago. Anyway.
Yeah.
Too soon.
Yeah. Plus, was this the same leg that he had an issue with after the last fight?
I don't know, to be honest.
Was it the same leg? Also, they had an ACL injury on?
Yeah, I'm not too sure, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I think it was his left leg. It was left leg. Yeah, it was. It was his left leg.
Yeah. I don't really know. I'm not too sure.